Elevate the customer's ride and your profits at the same time. Go beyond recovery with MOGO's small vehicle GPS tracking solutions, which help your customers get more out of their motorcycles, power sports vehicles, and more. They won't say no. And welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another great episode of On the Throttle with Jacqui Van Ham and my buddy Josh over here, bringing you the news for this week out here at Motorcycles and Power Sports. We've got another great episode coming your way. Make sure you go ahead, hit that share button. If you miss any of our episodes, you can always go back and watch them here on the Facebook or on the YouTubes, where they live forever and ever for you to enjoy. We are now, I think, Josh, on episode like 36, I think. We've done 36 of these, 36 weeks of awesome news. So make sure you go back and check those out. Josh, what do you have going on for today?
I am going to make more friends by telling everyone that they're watching the wrong kind of racing. And then for all of you people that are wanting to go 350 kilometers per hour, I will do some math for you and tell you some interesting protective gear that came out in order to help you doing that. What about you?
You switched over to kilometers, and I immediately was like, "Oh, this sounds like math." So thank you for sorting that out for me. I do appreciate that. Kudos. I have a handful of cool stories going on today, both kind of European-based, working with a European and dirt bike sort of vibe for today's story. The first story I'm going to bring to you is a really interesting dirt bike that came out on the internet last year. It definitely burned it down a little bit, and then they had their very first press rides this past week. The second one is an incredible event going on every single year from the folks over at RedBull, and that is this weekend's Erzbergrodeo. It's that time of year again, so we're going to talk about those two things. First things first, let's go ahead and chat a little bit about this excellent dirt bike. Josh, do you remember this coming out just a handful of months ago, it seems like? And I know there was just a ton of press about it, right? And this is going to be the Stark VARG. This is the Stark VARG motorcycle on your screen right now. This beautiful bike. These folks, this is actually a Swedish company that is now producing these machines in Barcelona. So it's a full European all the time package. And this was the very first opportunity for folks to go over to Barcelona, throw a leg over these bikes, and take them for a test ride. And I have to tell you, the results are very, very positive. Everyone is really, really excited about it. So it's really neat that there's a motorcycle that is either, expected or not, that fully captures the attention of the industry. And this bike is it. And it is in a motocross world that is dominated by two strokes. Yamaha stepped up to the plate and offered a competitor years ago, and that totally changed the face of motocross. So now in 2022, the Stark VARG may just be that next bike. They pre-sold more than 10,000 units, Josh, 3 months, and it is an all-electric motocross machine. This bike right now is super comparable as far as like the length, the duration that you can ride this bike. It is comparable to one full tank of gas in a traditional 454 stroke. Everybody was really pumped about the power coming out of these. And right now it's approximately, it feels kind of like about 60 horsepower. Right now the 454 stroke motocross bike is consistently closer to 55. So they're very neck and neck with a modern 450. But now look, because it's electric, you're dealing with way less rotating mass. You're also dealing with the weight being much more centered. This bike also has over 100 variations of different ride modes, and it hauls the mail. Just a super cool machine from the folks over at Stark VARG. I love that name too. It reminds me of Tony Stark and Iron Man, and I just love that it's got these very modern vibes to it, but yet still very recognizable, very much, a very kind of traditional looking dirt bike for an electric bike. What do you think about this Stark VARG, Josh?
So I was looking through my mail here, and I was disappointed. It didn't haul enough mail because it did not contain my invite to go ride it. So I was disappointed in that. But it's really, to me, dirt bikes make so much sense for the electric kind of revolution. And just it's going to be where battery technology fits the best and things of that nature. What I find so interesting about this is there's a lot of people that poo-poo it. They I want the noise. The noise is a byproduct of speed. Speed isn't a byproduct of noise. So what the electrics do is they get rid of, we've made so many adaptations to ride an internal combustion engine well. The electrics get rid of all that. So we need to kind of unlearn some of the bad habits that we've got to ride these well. And once people learn these, they're gone. So I'm super pumped about it. I want to ride one, and let's see what happens.
I know, right? There was a review, one of the many, many reviews that just came out this past week. They also referenced, which I thought this was really interesting, talking about the noise. They were like, this brings motocross smack talking and trash talking to your competitor to a whole new level, because you can actually hear each other talk smack and make fun of each other. And I thought that was such a perfect point. I thought that was so clever. But yeah, as with any e-bike also, you know, you're now removing oil changes, valve adjustments. I mean, you're removing all these other parts. So to me, this is such a win-win. And I didn't know about this number of pre-selling 10,000 units, which is really, really incredible. I think this bike is somewhere around like $12,000, I think was the MSRP. It was in the low teens. So this is not an inexpensive toy to get into. Like, these are people that really mean business, and 10,000 of them stepped up to put a deposit down. Whether they're going to pull the trigger on the final product or not, who knows? But 10,000 people signing up saying yes, please. I find it very, very interesting. Now, what do you have going on for your first story, Josh?
So like I said, I'm going to make friends because not everyone, there's a lot of people watching the wrong racing. So I have to say, if anyone tuned into some of the World Superbike, World Supersport, and World Supersport 300 stuff this weekend, they got a show. So when you look at World Supersport, in this first photo here, we will look at the first three places crossing the finish line, all within 0.2 of a second of each other. That is close racing, and I believe there was either 2 or 3 lead changes in the very last lap. Nonetheless, it was, the whole time I'm watching this, I'm on the edge of my seat. There's so much drama, so many things playing into this, such close racing that we don't get in so many other areas. The drama with this, it was absolutely amazing. So the thing that it came down to is Baldassarri won, but in this next photo here, this is one of the other things that I like, is they are taking the rules to heart. There's a few other racing series, and there's one in cars we won't talk about, where they don't always adhere to track limits. Baldassarri got a 1-place penalty for exceeding track limits, and this is the shot that I got where he was the most over track limits. He touched the green essentially, and they're like, back you go. To me, the fact that they look at things this hard and they're going to be that strict on the rules is part of what makes for this great racing. So if we go over to World Supersport, they had a phenomenal finish too, where you looked at this in this next slide here, there was 0.02 of a second between first and second. This is the type of finishes that these guys have. Right. Third and fourth were only 0.4 of a second back. So when you see stuff like this, to me, this is why I say World Superbike, World Supersport, and World Supersport 300 have such amazing racing, and why I want to see so more people watching this, because it is truly absolutely amazing what these riders and racers are doing, besides the fact that these bikes are based on the bike that you can go down the street and get. There's been companies moving around in some other racing series. With World Superbike, it's pretty easy for a lot of the manufacturers to support their teams in them because it's a little less expensive for them to get in, which I absolutely love. On top of this, this last slide here, we've got a really tight race. I mean, for 6 years, it was essentially the Jonathan Rea show. Last year, Ratsgaklioglu, I'm never going to say his name right, he won the championship. He had a DNF in the first race this week. So now we've got Bautista at 220 points, Ray at 184, and Ratsgaklioglu at 141. It's a tight race. It is not over yet. These guys are riding like this all the time. I mean, to me, this is the series that, if you're looking for excitement, is going to deliver it. And even with World Supersport only being 300cc bikes, you see some absolutely amazing riding out of them. So what do you think, Jacqui? Are you going to start tuning in more on this?
You're right. I do feel very, very neglectful by not tuning more frequently into World Superbike. I did see the news come out this week about this weekend's race, and I know I missed out. I'm going to have to go back and catch it. But
Yeah.
man, right now, doesn't it seem like there is just bananas racing all over the place? There's MotoGP. There's World Superbike, which you brought up a very good point. World
Yep.
Superbike is very, very excellent racing. And then also some news that we haven't talked about a whole lot on this program, but maybe I'll try to do a little bit of a recap or catch folks up to date on one of our upcoming shows, is American Flat Track Racing. There's also great racing going on over there. So you're totally right. This is very incredible racing. This photo on the screen right now, bananas. I love that down to the wire type of finish.
Yes.
And I do love, you're right, that this is more of a production raced race program, and they are a little bit more, to me it's almost a little bit more rider skill, because the machines are held at a certain level, if that makes any sense. Is that kind of a fair thing?
One of the things that I love about it too is the fact that, MotoGP is unobtainium. Those bikes, there's 4 of them on the planet. That's it. Each one is handcrafted. It's one off. There is nothing like it. Any motorcycle that I can get shares about the same amount of DNA with that as a giraffe. Whereas this, the frame, the motor, all of this is based on stuff that's got to roll out of the dealership. Now, there's high-end suspension bits. There's, high-end bodywork. There's other items, sure. But this looks very similar to what you can walk into the dealership and be like, hey, here's my money. I'm going to sign some other papers too. Let me walk out the door with this.
Here's my money. I'm ready to go bang bars with Jonathan Ray.
Sure.
So speaking of cool racing going on, I do have my next topic that I wanted to talk about is an absolutely bananas event. It's been going on 1995. If you have not, you probably at home have seen images from this and didn't know what you were looking at, because the images, the videos, the photos are completely out of control. If you follow any sort of dirt bike or not, you should be following this, watching it, and looking it up, because it is absolutely crazy. And that is the annual RedBull Erzbergrodeo is going on this coming weekend in Austria. Right now, you can see the very first slide on your screen. That's it, gang. That's the Erzbergrodeo. As you can see, it is indeed a mine. It is a great big iron mine, and they race up and down and around and through, and the course changes, and there's trees, and it's incredibly challenging and incredibly tough. This race series has been going on since 95. It is held annually in May or June. And like I said, it's run on ore. Literally, this is a mine. You can how it's all dug out, but this is a for reals mine. Erzbergrodeo is part of the Red Bull Hard Enduro series, together with the Red Bull Romaniacs, Red Bull Minus Riders, Red Bull Megawatt, Red Bull Sea to Sky, and Roof Africa in 2018, and joined the World Enduro Super Series, which became the FIM Hard Enduro World Championship in 2021. Awesome event is all weekend long, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The top 500 competitors from Friday and Saturday, I believe, are the ones that advance and race on Sunday. The big race is on Sunday. So now you can see on your screen, it is vertical climbing. It is just the most intense, crazy dirt racing you've ever seen. It is an absolute hoot. Lots of celebrities and super well-known dirt row and jump in and have a good time and race this. If they're in an enduro necessarily, they race it for fun. Honestly, they really do, because it's such a huge party night. They make these great big huge parades down to the city center, everybody on their competition dirt bikes dressed in costume. It's a huge party in the streets. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people go and attend this race. It is an absolute zoo. I love watching this every single year. Right now I'm traveling. I'm actually doing today's show from the Atlanta airport, but I will be back in time, and I will be clicking over to Red Bull and following along, because I cannot wait to see the footage. Look at this shot on your screen right now. That is the real deal right there. Josh, what do you think of the Erzbergrodeo?
So I've watched this for a number of years. I've caught highlights and stuff like that. And to me, it is the answer to the question, what is the dumbest way to get from point A back to point A? And that's what makes it so great. Seriously, They just look at a hill and be like, yeah, I couldn't climb that. That's where the course goes. I mean, you take talented riders and say, could you go up that? And they're like, nope. Great. That's where the course goes. That is how they come up with this. It's slippery. It is the absolute worst conditions you can imagine to ride in for traction and other items. And sounds like a great idea. I love watching it.
And the weather's always up and down. You never know what you're going to. Some years it's hot, some years it rains. I mean, it's just super, super, super intense racing. As a matter of fact, in 2015, they had a 4-way first place finish because these 4 guys were going up the very last hill and literally had to make a human ladder and drag their motorcycles up to throw it over the top to get to the finish line. And they all threw their 4 bikes basically up and over at the same time and crossed the finish line all at the same time. So every single one of them won first place all at the same time. Yeah. A very nice, like very, sportsman-like thing to do. But that just goes to show you like just how crazy this race is, and I cannot wait to watch it. This to me just looks like such a heck of a good time. If I was in Europe, this would absolutely be on my bucket list just to go and spectate this bad dog, just for the full tilt spectacle that truly is. Now, Josh, what do you got going on for your second story for today?
So since we talked about doing the absolute craziest things that you can possibly do with the Erzbergrodeo, let's talk about safety. So I'm going to talk about a new helmet from Shoei that's designed to go, and I know I'm not going to make you guys do the math actually, 350 kilometers per hour. That is for everyone in the rest of the world. Here in the US, that is approximately 217 miles per hour. Which at that point, anytime I've been over 170, usually my guts all start moving around and I'm like, okay, that's enough. So Shoei is just releasing this X-SPR Pro helmet. Now, this is something that Marc Marquez has been testing for some time for them. So it's going to have all the basic features that you'd expect in a very high-line helmet. So the pin lock visor, the EPS liner, the emergency quick release system. So, I mean, these are all the high-end things with it. It is ECE 22-06 homologated. There are 7 inlets, which are available to be open or closed for ventilation. There's 6 outlets out the back because we all know if you can get the air in, it's going to stop going in unless it has a place to go out. The top has a specific aero design for it, which when you see here as motorcyclists, this isn't the helmet, but I put this slide in here because even when you're tucked all the way in, your helmet sticks up some. And as we all know, as you're riding down the freeway or whatever, we're giant parachutes. Some of us more giant than others. I'm only 5'9". I have a friend that rides at 6'6". I mean, your head is going to be up and out there. And buffeting and wind is always an issue. The higher speeds you go, the worse that becomes. So this is designed specifically with a top side aero system that is meant to stabilize the helmet. Something that I found years ago at high speeds is you would get some of that head bobble, which makes your braking markers very difficult to spot. And not spotting your braking marker means you're going to be using the helmet. So in this, it is meant to stabilize your head, and also it is meant to get your head as much in line as they can with the suit in order to keep you as aerodynamic and as least like a parachute as possible. What does this cost? It is 699 pounds. No, that's not the weight. That is the cost in England right now. That is, I'm going to do more math for you. It's about $860. To me, I've always said you're only ever going to spend as much on your helmet as your head is worth. $860 seems like a great deal, especially if you're looking to go in excess of 300 kilometers per hour. So, and to me too, is I know, Jacqui, you always like it when I wear a helmet just because it covers up my face. But what are your thoughts on some of these new designs here?
I would like Shoei to please put one of these in the mail to Josh so he can wear it during the shows. I think that would be a really, really nice touch. No, I think this is super cool. I think this is super cool. I do love helmets. I'm a big helmet nerd myself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
just
I
a
love
great
all of the
setup.
new tech.
And it works well in making sure that they're protected. And once again, part of the protection in this is keeping your head stable enough that you can see your braking markers, especially someone, I mean, when you look at Marc Marquez, he's pushing for that last inch on the track. Making it so we can see that inch is a big help.
Yeah, very interesting. And I do love the new helmet technology, genuinely. You know, you and I joke about you wearing a helmet during the show, which, you know, some days I wish you would. But I do love all of this new technology. You know, anything that makes the helmets work better and be lighter and be more comfortable, it means more people are going to wear them. And
Yep.
eventually that technology might trickle down and become at a little bit more accessible price point. You know, just to keep it real with everybody, $800+ is not really accessible for everybody, but the technology and safety should be. So the neat thing is, though, a lot of times those things will kind of trickle down and make their way down to more mid-price helmets as well. So these are all good signs and all really interesting bits of tech. But that's going to be about it for today's show, everybody. What do y'all think about that out there? Make sure you go ahead. If you have any questions, stick them on into the comments. If you want to tell Josh he's wrong about anything, you can also go ahead and put that in the comments. I totally support that. We will be back next week with another great episode. Huge thanks to this week's show partner, MOGO. And we will see you guys next week.